Welcome to Tombstone's Takes. I'm Tombstone, and I like to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and interesting about books. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. Like I said, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and interesting, so let's start with the ugly. The ugly. The problem with Stephen Graham Jones in My Heart is a Chainsaw is accessibility. Stephen Graham Jones' writing and story is so smart and nuanced that at times he loses a lot of his readers. Because he doesn't commit to telling you straight up what's going on and what's happening, he forces you as the reader to figure it out, to search deeply in those nuanced sentences to find out and to decide for yourself what's really happening. That leads the story to not be as straightforward or accessible to some readers. And this typically wouldn't be a problem if the story was a straightforward literary tale. But this is a genre tale. And there are particular conventions to genre tales that people like and that make them accessible to certain types of readers. In this case, the story is a slasher story. And what makes a slasher story accessible to fans of that genre? Well, what most of those fans want are buckets of pig's blood dumped on Carrie right in the prologue of the book. That way, the rest of the entire novel are these kids trapped in the gym and dying as Carrie takes them out one by one, which makes the nuance of a book, especially if it slows down the pace, hard for some fans of the genre to take. And some describe this book as a slow burn, and it is that. But really, part of the reason it's so horrifying is it depicts the horrifying tales of what happens in abusive relationships. And if you're not willing to be scared by that, then half of the book might be pretty slow and inaccessible to you. Now let's get on to the good. I've heard some people describe Jade as a quirky character. She's not really a quirky character. She's damaged. She's highly damaged. Her abusive relationship with her family makes her retreat into slasher films, which at their core, slasher films are about survival. And that's exactly what Jade is. She's a survivor. But that's also what makes her awesome. Super awesome. Like really awesome. Like she's one of my favorite characters in the last 3 years. Now let's move on to the bad. Now the bad is that the story does become a little bit like Carrie-like with pig's blood and buckets and trapped in the gym and all of that stuff. You just have to wait like 200 pages to get there. 200 pages might be a bit much to get into some of that slasher stuff for a lot of fans of the genre. However, if you can figure out what's going on and pay attention to the nuance and the details, I'm sure you're going to be rewarded. I was. Now let's move on to the interesting. One of the things that I find interesting about the book is how Stephen Graham Jones, the author, can take such a blatant, in-your-face genre, something that's all blood and gore and guts and knives and stabbing and cheerleaders dying, and turn it into a heartfelt rumination about what it's like to survive the true traumas in life. Having said that, I absolutely love this book. It took me a minute to get to that point where I could say I absolutely loved it. When I first put it down, I thought about it. I had enjoyed the actual journey in the read, but I wasn't sure about it, and I had to chew on it for a minute. I had to think about it and go over it again in my mind, and that's the point. I think that's what Stephen Graham Jones was looking for, and some of that nuance that he has in his books are just so darn clever that when you really think about it, it comes at you, hits you hard when you're remembering 2, 3 days or a week later. Having said that, Tombstone recommends My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. In a couple days, I'll leave a non-spoiler review of his forthcoming Don't Fear the Reaper, which I was lucky enough to get my grubby mitts on an arc of that, an advanced reader copy. So I'll leave a review of that for you guys. Hopefully you like it. As always, if you like what I do, please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.